I want to begin by thanking you all for being here today, because you are able now to amplify and elevate the stories of these families from Uvalde. As Veronica just reminded us, it has been 18 weeks, and not a single thing has changed to make it any less likely that any other child in any other classroom in any other community in Texas will meet the same fate as these 19 children did on the 24th of May of this very year, along with their two extraordinary teachers who had already sacrificed so much for those kids day in and day out, and ultimately gave their lives for them. The answers are before us, and you've heard the parents themselves who know this better, unfortunately, than any of us here do, that raising the age of purchase for a weapon originally designed for war. Felix, who served twice in Iraq, willing to put his life on the line for this country, described coming back safely to the United States of America, to Uvalde, but his daughter up against one of those weapons of war, not able to make it through that school day or through that school year. Raising the minimum age of purchase to 21 is something that not only do all of us here agree on, not only does the mayor of Uvalde and the entire city council, who, as Veronica said, demanded that the governor call a special session to bring Republicans and Democrats around the table to do just that. But I've traveled to every part of this state, literally. Listened to people who are for me. I've listened to people who will never vote for me. All of them agree that this makes sense. It allows us to continue to defend the Second Amendment while better protecting the lives of our children. I want to anticipate a question that some of you might have, that I've heard at these town halls across the state. But Beto, criminals won't follow the law. It won't matter what we do. I think in some cases we have to acknowledge that's true. But this troubled young man in Uvalde patiently waited till he was 18 years old, never tried to acquire that firearm when he was 16 or 17. Upon his 18th birthday, he was legally able to go into a gun store and buy not one, but two AR-15s and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. Republicans, Democrats, independents, gun owners alike all agree that raising the age allows us at least 3 more years for some kind of intervention in a person's life like this young man in Uvalde. Other common sense, common ground ideas I've heard: a red flag law, which simply says that if you already have that firearm and you're threatening to use it against yourself or use it against someone in your life or take it into a classroom, we should remember that this shooter in Uvalde was signaling so strongly what he might do that his friends called him the school shooter before he ever walked into Robb Elementary on the 24th of May 2022. A red flag law could save lives. A universal background check, which just simply says that in addition to the background check that takes place at a federally licensed gun dealer, if you buy at a gun show or from a private seller, you go through a background check as well. Again, I have yet to meet the Texan who will argue that point, except for Greg Abbott. He's called special sessions to determine which kids can go to which bathrooms. He's called special sessions to determine which version of history we're allowed to teach in our schools. He's called 2 special sessions to weaken our right to vote, but 18 weeks and counting, and all of us today are still counting. He has yet to lift a finger to call a special session, to bring people around the table, to move forward on common sense solutions that defend the Second Amendment while better protecting the lives of our kids, our families, and the people in our communities. As you listen to Kimberly and to Felix, as you listen to Javier and Gloria, as you just listened to Veronica, who stands here with Jerry, as we think about the lives lost, taken from us, Lexi and Jackie and Tess, and although they didn't speak, Nevaeh's family is here, Annabelle's family is here, and I have a card signed by many of the other families in Uvalde who lost a loved one. I just want you to know this. Though Greg Abbott has set the conditions of tonight's debate, that not a single one of his constituents in this state is allowed in a hall that seats hundreds, not even these families here. I will be carrying this card, tokens and mementos that other families have given me, their stories and their spirit and their leadership into that debate, and every single day of this campaign, and every single day that I draw a breath. They are owed, and by extension, so are we, justice and accountability. They are owed the memories of their daughters and sons kept alive forever. And they are also owed action. And the only way that we are going to get that is through change. The last thing that I want to say before all of us will happily take your questions is this. Before the crack of dawn, these families that you see behind me boarded buses in Uvalde, Texas. It is más o menos 280 miles from where we are today in Edinburgh. And it reminds me of the fact that on the 24th of May of this year, when the governor was near Abilene, Texas, about 280 miles from Uvalde, when at that time he knew that as many as 14 children had been killed, but they hadn't recovered all the bodies, they hadn't told all of the parents, he had a choice to make. He could drive just as these families did for 5 hours, 280 miles, due south to Uvalde to be with them, or he could go in the opposite direction, about 300 miles, to a fundraiser on a private jet. You all know what he chose to do. He went to that fundraiser, did not show up until the next day, and then when he did, as one of the families just shared with us, he began by saying, it could have been worse. We need someone who prioritizes the lives of our kids over the interests of the NRA or any other special interest group or really any other matter at all. Amy, my wife, who is with me here today, we're raising our 3 kids, Ulysses, Molly, and Henry in El Paso. There is nothing but nothing that is more important to us than them, just like these families right here, right now. And I will do everything in my power to come through for them and for every child in this state. I know that their judgment is upon us. I know that the only voice that they have in this election is through the votes of those who are eligible to cast them. We cannot be found wanting, and we absolutely must come through. Last thing that I want to say is that after we have this press conference here today, after we have a chance to say goodbye to one another, later this afternoon, these same families will be getting on that same bus and traveling those same 280 miles, nearly 5 hours. They will not get home to their community and to their families until after 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. Look at what they are willing to do, not for themselves. There's nothing they can do by being here now to get their kids back. They are doing it for your kids and for every other child across the state of Texas right now. Whether we're Republicans, independents, or Democrats, let us be inspired by their leadership and follow the way that they have set. Thank you all for coming out here today. I want to thank the families again for being here and standing so strong, making us so proud of this state. The guy in office right now is not a reflection of who we are. These families are who we are at our best. Chris Evans from our team is going to facilitate the questions. And I know that we've got a lot of folks here, which is wonderful. There may be questions about the horse race in the election or about a number of other issues. I'm very happy to answer those at tonight's press conference following the debate. Right now, given the 10-hour round-trip drive these families have made, I would ask you to please keep your questions to the subject at hand. Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks. Let's start up front with Nikki, Statesman, and then the Texas Tribune.
The question is, we win this race, how are we going to make progress and change that all of us today are asking for? Those 3 ideas, raising the age to 21, a red flag law, having a universal background check, are almost universally supported across the political spectrum in the state of Texas. For example, the Republican mayor of Fort Worth is supportive of raising the age. The mayor of Uvalde, and he and I don't see eye to eye probably on a whole lot, but even he is supportive of that issue. Really, the only person standing in the way is the governor of the state of Texas. Change who that governor is, replace him with somebody who's willing to take action, who will seek the common ground. I'll bring every Republican, every Democrat around the table. And I tell you what, it will not just be legislators and politicians at that table. These families will be at that table with us. And I dare any legislator to ignore them or not do the common sense thing that's on the common ground before us that will save lives. This is a question for the families.
Yes, we would definitely love to be in the audience, correct? Yes. We would. We're not. We're going to be at a convention center with more of Beto supporters, and we'll be watching from there.
First of all, ¿cuál es su estrategia para alcanzar la diferencia mínima de porcentajes de las encuestas su oponente Greg Abbott? Y en segundo lugar, ¿por qué Abbott no quiere a estas familias en el interior del recinto del debate?
Voy a contestar la primera pregunta esta noche porque es aparte de que estamos discutiendo ahora sobre el segundo o la segunda. Yo sé que con el liderazgo de las familias que tenemos aquí, sus ejemplos, podemos cambiar las leyes que tenemos en el estado en este momento. Por ejemplo, podemos aumentar o subir la edad de comprar un AR-15 o AK-47 a 21 años. Es algo que tiene el apoyo de republicanos, independientes, demócratas también, los dueños de armas y gente que no tienen armas en su casa. Y va a proteger las vidas de los hijos y hijas que tenemos en el estado de Texas al mismo tiempo que podemos defender la segunda enmienda. Gracias.
¿Cuál es el mensaje para aquellos republicanos que incluso están de acuerdo con hacer cambios a las leyes del corte de armas?
Después de perder las vidas de 19 niños y niñas y 2 maestras hace 18 semanas y no tenemos cambio para proteger las vidas de los niños y niñas en otras partes del estado, incluyendo nuestra familia en El Paso. Las soluciones son de las familias y tienen el apoyo de republicanos y demócratas, de la gente del estado. Subir la edad de comprar una AR-15 o AK-47, tener una revisión universal de antecedentes, un bandera roja o red flag law. Como eso podemos defender la segunda enmienda, algo muy importante en el estado de Texas, pero al mismo tiempo podemos proteger las vidas de nuestros hijos y hijas. Y yo estoy escuchando a republicanos en cada parte del estado, también gente que están apoyando a Greg Abbott. Somos de acuerdo en las 3 ideas en que estamos hablando ahora y tenemos el liderazgo de las familias. Ellos, yo pienso, van a cambiar este estado en las elecciones, pero después en el trabajo que tenemos en el próximo año con el Congreso en el nivel estatal.